cop slaps the wrong black woman, she's a judge. And what follows destroys his career. The air was thick with the hum of the city, a restless pulse of car horns and distant sirens weaving through the crowded streets of downtown Oakland. Judge Amara Ellis stood at the crosswalk, her judicial robe tucked neatly under her arm. Her mind still tangled in the case she just presided over, a young black man sentenced for a crime he swore he didn't commit. Her heart ached, not just for him but for the system she'd sworn to uphold, a system that too often seemed to bend under the weight of prejudice. At 42, Amara had climbed from the rough edges of East Oakland to the bench, her dark skin and unyielding resolve marking her as both a beacon and a target. She didn't see Officer Daniel Hargrove approaching. He was a broad-shouldered man, his uniform crisp, his face etched with the kind of frustration that comes from a long shift and a short fuse. The crowd around the Buzz Eater protest had just dispersed, leaving behind a trail of signs demanding justice for another black life lost to police violence. Hargrove's radio crackled, his eyes scanning for trouble. They landed on Amara, her poised demeanor somehow registering as defiance in his frayed nerves. "Hey, you!" he barked, striding toward her. "Move along now." Amara turned, her brow furrowing. "Excuse me?" Her voice was calm, measured, the kind that commanded courtrooms. But Hargrove wasn't listening. He saw her dark skin, her steady gaze, and something in him snapped. The crowd's chants still echoed in his ears, and he was done with what he saw as disrespect. "Don't talk back," he shouted, stepping closer. Before Amara could respond, his hand flew up, a sharp slap cracking across her cheek. The sound cut through the street noise like a gunshot. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Phones were raised, capturing the moment that would soon ignite the internet. Amara staggered, her hand flying to her face, not from pain but from sheer disbelief. For a moment, the world slowed, her years of fighting, her mother's warnings about knowing her place. The countless times she'd been underestimated all collided in her chest. But she straightened, her eyes blazing. "Do you have any idea who I am?" she said, her voice low but razor-sharp. Hargrove froze, his hands still raised, confusion flickering across his face. The crowd pressed closer, their murmurs growing louder. A young woman, barely 20, pushed through, her phone still recording. "That's Judge Ellis, you idiot!" she yelled, her voice trembling with rage. "She's a damn judge." The revelation hit Hargrove like a freight train. His face paled, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. "I don't care who she is," he growled, though his voice wavered. "She was obstructing." "Obstructing?" Amara cut him off, stepping forward, her presence towering despite her modest height. "I was crossing the street. You assaulted me, in front of witnesses." She gestured to the crowd, now a sea of phones and furious faces. "You just made the biggest mistake of your career." The tension was suffocating. Hargrove's partner, Officer Lena Carter, a rookie with wide eyes and a conscience not yet hardened, tugged at his arm. "Dan, stop. She's right. You screwed up." But Hargrove shook her off, his ego drowning out reason. He reached for his cuffs, as if arresting Amara would somehow erase his error. That's when the twist came. From the edge of the crowd, an older black man, gray hair framing a weathered face, stepped forward. He wore a janitor's uniform, his name tag reading Clarence. His voice was steady, almost gentle, but it carried the weight of decades. "Officer, you don't want to do this. I've seen you before. You're better than this." His words weren't loud, but they landed like a thunderclap. Hargrove hesitated, his hand hovering over the cuffs. Clarence continued, "I was there when you helped my grandson last year, got him home safe when he was lost. You're not this man." The crowd fell silent. Hargrove's face twitched, a flicker of shame breaking through his bravado. Amara watched, her anger tempered by curiosity. Who was this man, this janitor, disarming a volatile moment with nothing but memory and humanity? Clarence's intervention was a lifeline, a reminder that even in the heat of conflict, redemption was possible not just for Hargrove, but for the fractured community watching. But Amara wasn't here for redemption yet. She turned to the crowd. "This isn't just about me," she said, her voice rising. "This is about every black person who's been profiled, harassed, or worse. I'm a judge, and this still happened to me. What happens to those without a title?" Her words ignited the crowd, their cheers mingling with cries of agreement. The young woman who'd first called out Amara's identity, now revealed as a law student named Kira, stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "We're with you, Judge," she said, holding up her phone. The video was already streaming, hashtags like Justice for Judge Ellis spreading like wildfire. Hargrove's career unraveled in real time. By evening, the video had millions of views. News outlets picked up the story. Cop slaps black judge in broad daylight. The police department, under pressure, suspended Hargrove pending investigation. But Amara wasn't satisfied with punishment alone. She filed a formal complaint, not just against Hargrove but against the systemic failures that emboldened him. In court, she argued her own case, her voice unwavering as she detailed the assault, the racial profiling, and the broader pattern it represented. The courtroom was packed, Kira in the front row, Clarence quietly in the back. The twist deepened when Clarence testified. He wasn't just a janitor, had been a community mediator for decades, known for de-escalating conflicts no one else could. His testimony about Hargrove's past kindness wasn't to excuse the slap, but to highlight the tragedy of a man undone by his own biases. "He wasn't always like this," Clarence said, "but anger and fear can poison anyone." The jury, moved by his words, saw the bigger picture. Hargrove wasn't a monster, but a product of a system that too often rewarded aggression over empathy. Hargrove was found guilty of assault and stripped of his badge. But Amara's victory wasn't in his downfall, it was in the change that followed. Her case sparked reforms: mandatory de-escalation training, stricter oversight of police conduct, and a citywide dialogue on race and justice. Kira, inspired, founded a legal aid clinic for victims of police misconduct. Clarence, ever humble, continued his quiet work, bridging divides one conversation at a time. Amara stood on the courthouse steps months later, the city skyline behind her, now a symbol of resilience. "This wasn't about me," she told the crowd. "It's about us. We rise together or we fall apart." Her cheek still bore the faint memory of that slap, but her spirit was unbroken. She thought of Clarence, of Kira, of the countless faces in the crowd who'd found their voice. Justice wasn't just a verdict, it was a movement. What do you think? Was Hargrove's punishment enough? Or does true justice require more than one man's fall? Share your thoughts on where we draw the line between accountability and systemic change.